Welcome to the Secrets of the Bible channel. Mark was a first-century Christian, a cousin of Barnabas, a collaborator with the apostles and the author of the second gospel of the New Testament, which bears his name. Although he is not mentioned directly in the gospel he wrote, Mark is mentioned in the book of Acts of the Apostles and in the apostolic letters. First of all, thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe to the channel if you like this topic and share it with your family and friends. Back to the narration. His Hebrew name was John, Yohanan, which means Yahweh has shown grace. However, like many Jews of his time, he adopted the Latin name Marcus, which means a great hammer, and in its Greek form is Markos. For this reason, he is often called John Mark. Although it was common for Jews to adopt Roman or Greek names in the first century, especially when freed from slavery, which was not the case with him, it is difficult to understand why he chose this name, since Mark is not really a surname, but a pre-name. John Mark was a Jew, possibly born in Jerusalem, as we can see in Colossians 4 verses 10 and 11. His mother, called Mary, was related to Barnabas, the Apostle Paul's traveling companion. There is no mention of John Mark's father, which suggests that his mother Mary may have been a widow during the events described in the book of Acts of the Apostles. It seems that John Mark was part of a prosperous family, since his mother's house was large enough to serve as a meeting place for the early church and had at least one maid called Rhode, as we see in Acts 12 verse 12. Mark was taken by Barnabas and Paul to Antioch, as we see in Acts 12 verse 25, and then accompanied them on their first missionary journey, helping them. However, when they reached Perga in Asia Minor, John Mark decided to leave them and return to Jerusalem. Paul and Barnabas continued their journey alone. However, the Apostle Paul clearly disapproved of Mark's attitude and later, considering him a deserter, refused to take him on his second missionary journey, as we can see in Acts 15 verse 38. On the other hand, Barnabas was unwilling to give up his company. Faced with this impasse, Paul and Barnabas decided to go their separate ways. Barnabas remained with Mark and went to Cyprus, while Paul took Silas with him and continued his second missionary journey. Although we can't confirm the period during which Mark accompanied Barnabas, it's clear that he received solid discipleship, as Paul recognized his value later on. About 10 or 12 years after the incident with Mark, when Paul wrote the epistle to the Colossians during his imprisonment in Rome, Mark is mentioned by him, being recommended to the Christian community in Colossae. If Mark was not present with Paul in Rome at the time, he was certainly close to him, as we see in Colossians 4 verse 10. On the same occasion, when writing to Philemon, the apostle also mentions him alongside Luke, Aristarchus, and Demas, designating them as his collaborators, as we see in Philemon 24. Finally, during Paul's second imprisonment in Rome, around 66 and 67 A.D., the apostle asked Mark to go to Rome, as he was very useful in the ministry, demonstrating that, at this point, Mark had already shown great usefulness, contrasting with his younger and inconsequential behavior. Mark is mentioned by Peter in his first epistle, being called son by the apostle, suggesting that over time Mark had a significant role alongside the apostles. In the letter, Peter claims to be in Babylon, possibly referring to the Rome of his day. This implies that Mark was there with him, corroborating the tradition that Mark wrote his gospel there, with Peter as his main source. However, it is difficult to determine the precise date of the gospel's composition, suggesting that Mark may have written it around 40 AD, before his departure on the missionary journey. Regardless of the date, the way Peter refers to Mark as "my son" suggests a strong and lasting connection between them. Thus, it is likely that Peter played a crucial role in the composition of Mark's records, even if it was a long time ago. There are many speculations about Mark's identity in ancient Christian traditions. Some of them suggest that he was the founder of the Alexandrian Church, but there is no evidence to support this claim. Many scholars also associate him with the young man who was seen wearing only a sheet on the night Jesus was arrested, and who, when fleeing from the temple police, left the sheet behind. This theory is considered plausible, since this incident is specifically mentioned in the gospel attributed to him. Based on this interpretation, some suggest that Mark may have been the man who carried a pitcher of water during the preparations for the Passover celebration. Others suggest that it could have been his father, if he was still alive at the time. If this second possibility is correct, Then the house where Jesus celebrated the supper would be the same house of Mary mentioned in the book of Acts of the Apostles, who later welcomed the believers from Jerusalem. Some argue that Mark could have been one of the 70 missionaries sent by Jesus as we see in Luke 10 verse 1, but this theory lacks substantial support. It is also worth mentioning that there are traditions that suggest a possible martyrdom of Mark, but there is no concrete evidence to support this claim. Leaving conjecture aside, William Hendrickson, in his New Testament commentary, offers an enlightening perspective on Mark's identity, stating that he was not a prominent leader or renowned builder, but rather a follower and helper. Mark was not without flaws. On the contrary, he was someone who faced his weaknesses and overcame them. And if you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next Bible studies. See you in the next video.